Hey, what's up, guys? John here. Did you know the Federal Reserve contracted with BlackRock, and then BlackRock contracted with Kamala Harris? So you have the Biden administration, the Federal Reserve, and BlackRock all working together with housing, with real estate, with where you live. All of this is changing in such a fast pace way right now because we're leaving an era of quantitative easing, meaning they had so much money in the system. Interest rates are very low. Everyone could get a mortgage. Home sellers felt rich because they were getting record-breaking prices on their properties. Stock investors making a fortune. Crypto investors, everyone was making money, and BlackRock was advising the entire situation. So look at this. March 24th, 2020. This is about 2 weeks after we stepped into that big problem in 2020. Washington, the Federal Reserve, has hired asset management giant BlackRock to help it execute the purchase of commercial mortgage-backed securities, announced this week as part of the central bank's aggressive efforts to shore up the economy. Over the past week, the central bank has released a volley of measures to boost liquidity in the financial markets and get cash to the hands of small businesses and consumers amid growing worries the pandemic outbreak would wreak economic havoc across the country. Now, this is very smart for a couple reasons for BlackRock's entire plan. Now, during this period when they're putting out all this money into the system, what do people do when they have money? They spend it. They spend it on cars. They extend themselves. They take out lines of credit. They borrow. And with very low interest rates, people feel like, hey, I got unemployment benefits, I have stimulus, I have PP loans, I have more money than ever before. I can afford these monthly payments if I make the minimum payments. So people are just accumulating debt, right? Well, as part of that program, the Fed is committed to purchasing billions of dollars in commercial paper, mortgage-backed securities, commercial mortgage-backed securities secured primarily in multifamily home mortgages guaranteed by housing giants Fannie and Freddie. Now, these housing giants own 62% of all mortgages in America, all right? And then, that was March 24th of 2020. Well, on January 8th of 2021, BlackRock exec picked as Kamala Harris's top economic advisor, right? Then on BlackRock's website, most recently, we began investing in new construction purpose-built for-rent housing developments that add to the supply to the market and address the increasing demand we see for this property type. Our focus is on building single-family rental housing that can be managed and operated similarly to multifamily properties with dedicated property management and leasing and amenities, okay? Well, starting June 1st, they're going to start having to sell these mortgage-backed securities. They're going to have to start selling them because we were in quantitative easing where we were just, making liquidity very accessible to now we're going to start tightening up the economy, selling about $35 billion per month and increasing interest rates to bring this economy back down to earth. That's the plan. However, now you have the Fed. Their buyers for these mortgage-backed securities are going to be banks, insurance companies, and pension funds. Now, with the likes of BlackRock, they're building out this affordable housing. Who's going to buy all of these mortgages? It's the big question. And what happens if people don't buy them? Because the initial intent was to start selling these in March, and that just didn't happen. Well, if mortgage-backed securities can't find a buyer, well, they're going to fall in free fall, right? And rates are going to climb rapidly, and investors are going to demand more compensation for that additional risk. Now, if you were an investor, would you buy mortgages at 2.5% interest, 3% interest when real inflation might be somewhere around 20%? No, probably not, right? And so if this happens, all this works out so well for the new plan, for the new agenda. What will happen is rates are going to likely continue to go up, meaning all the people that borrowed all this money, think about this, we have 1.46 trillion in outstanding auto loans, 1.7 trillion in student loan debt, 1 trillion in credit card debt, right? All this borrowed money. What's going to happen when rates increase? Those monthly payments are going to increase. And when those monthly payments increase, people are not going to be able to qualify for mortgages if mortgage rates follow with it and also increase. The debt to income ratio for traditional home buyers about 2 years ago was 26% debt to income ratio. Meaning, if you make $10,000 a month, your mortgage payment, your housing cost might be $2,500, right? Or $2,600. However, now it's 31%. We are also seeing this inflation problem hit all at the same time. So what I think is very likely to happen here is Biden, he's now pushing, he's doubling down on dense, affordable housing. We're going to start moving into this. We need to find a solution for housing type situation. We hear about this a lot. But U.S. President Joe Biden wants to close a 15-year housing shortage in just 5 years. The U.S. housing affordability crisis has only gotten worse with the pandemic-era supply chain issues despite generous welfare and federal housing assistance as fewer homes are on the market and more people own homes. Around 50% of Americans told Pew Research that housing affordability was a major problem when they lived, up 10 percentage points from earlier 2018. So what are they going to do? They're going to look at Biden's tax plan, and you're going to be able to find out. They are going to really start increasing taxes. Top individual federal income tax rate went from 37% to 39.6%. They dropped what they classify as high income from $550,000 to $400,000. And American corporate foreign income generally subject to 21% tax. But they really start pushing for all these proposed new child tax credits, and they're moving more in that direction of we need to supply affordable housing. So if people aren't going to get access to credit and to loans, then people are going to need housing. They're going to need affordable housing, right? And so if they need affordable housing and people can't get access, they're going to likely continue putting more and more taxes and restrictions on businesses so that they have the capital and liquidity to go out there and buy up the housing. But what's also going to be unique and interesting in this situation is all the people that are also on fixed incomes, that are, living one check at a time, when they're getting hit with inflation and they're not able to refinance their properties because their rates are very low. If they were to refinance and they do so at a much higher rate, they might not be able to afford the payment, so they're going to be forced to sell. So what I think is ultimately happening here is I think that the tone in the market is going to shift from a seller's market to a buyer's market, because there's going to be less available buyers out in the marketplace and there's going to be a lot more sellers. This is where we're headed. The Biden administration wants to push forward on affordable housing. The Federal Reserve wants to sell mortgage-backed securities. Why would BlackRock and these other giants want to go out there and buy up the mortgage-backed securities so that they can lighten the debt loads of banks? They wouldn't. They'd want the banks to get more restrictive on lending so that they can take over the housing market. It makes the most sense. This is what is likely going to happen. We're going to start to see massive, massive problems with home affordability and getting the idea of buying your first property. It's just not going to be something that's going to be attainable for most people. This is why I think it is so important to have great credit right now. It's so important to have additional income streams. It's important to have a strategy, because if you don't, they're going to try to push you into one of these quote-unquote affordable housing units, and they're going to keep rents so expensive and strip away all that opportunity to own your own property. That's why people need to be really, really defensive right now, really creative with how they're spending their time, where they're investing, everything. Because the whole landscape in America is changing right before our feet. I believe, and I've said this before, that we were in the biggest rug pull in history the last couple of years, where they built out all this artificial stimulus, all this artificial confidence in the economy, that they're really just getting ready to just pull it from everyone's feet. And when they do, all the big giants, the BlackRocks, the Blackstones, these big corporations are going to be sitting there waiting with their billions and billions of dollars to acquire property, pennies on the dollar. What do you think about this entire situation? Drop your comments below. Do you think BlackRock and these other corporations are going to run out there and save the day so Americans can, continue buying houses? Or do you think they're going to let the mortgage-backed securities become a real problem to where people can't get mortgages? Drop your comments below. Hit the like button. When you hit the like button, YouTube's going to share this content to educate more people about what's going on. Subscribe here. Also subscribe to my second YouTube channel. It's going to be a podcast and an interactive show starting this week. Links down below for that. And LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, everything is in the banner. Let me know your thoughts on this. Let's have a conversation about this. I'm really curious as to what you guys think, and I'll catch you guys later.